Have you ever wondered what happens when a state runs out of money but people still live there? Sounds like a plot from a dark movie, right? But it's real. This is happening in parts of America right now because of economic stress, trade wars, and mismanagement. Media Group. Dramatic aerial view of rural state landscape with deteriorating infrastructure. Close-up of Welcome to Today. We're counting down 10 U.S. states walking a financial tightrope over a canyon with no safety net. These are places where one bad recession, one major industry collapse, or even a strong hurricane could push them over the edge. Some are obvious, some will surprise you, but all of them share one thing: if the U.S. economy goes south, they will take the hardest hit. Number 10. Mississippi. Mississippi might seem slow and peaceful, cotton fields, catfish farms, sleepy towns, but underneath, the economy is fragile. Median household income is around $62,000, about 25% below the national average. Nearly 1 in 4 residents lives in poverty, and only about 54% of working-age adults are in the workforce, one of the lowest rates in the country. Mississippi depends heavily on agriculture and manufacturing, industries that have been struggling for decades. NAFTA and the Great Recession hit the state hard, and recovery has been painfully slow. Education is also a challenge, with only 22% of adults holding a 4-year degree, making it nearly impossible to attract high-paying industries. Infrastructure is crumbling. Roads and bridges are rated a D by the American Society of Civil Engineers, and rural hospitals have been closing for years. Cuts to Medicaid and any national economic downturn could push the state into crisis quickly. Mississippi's decline is quiet but real, and if disaster strikes, entire counties could turn into ghost towns with little notice. The latest developments with cuts in Medicaid will hit Mississippi hard. And they're kind of entering the catastrophe zone already. Roads and bridges are in such bad shape that the American Society of Civil Engineers have rated the state D. Yeah, there's only one worse, it's called an F, and they're almost there. If a national crash hits, Mississippi's already struggling system could go dark in weeks, not months, not years, in weeks. The scary part, for much of America, Mississippi's decline is invisible. It's not a media hotspot, it's not a political battleground, and it's not a tourism darling. But it's quietly sinking. And if the U.S. economy takes another major hit, entire Mississippi counties could turn into ghost towns and barely anyone outside the state would notice. Number 9. Louisiana. Louisiana may sparkle with jazz, gumbo, and the magic of New Orleans, but the state is financially unstable. About 18.6% of residents live below the poverty line, and the median household income is $69,000. The state relies heavily on oil and gas, which makes up roughly 10% of GDP. That means any sudden drop in oil prices can devastate the economy. Hurricanes add another layer of risk. Katrina in 2005 caused $125 billion in damages, and more recent storms like Laura, Ida, and Zeta have kept Louisiana's finances tight. Education, infrastructure, and healthcare all rank near the bottom nationwide. Rural hospitals are under threat, roads are sinking, and state reserves are tiny. One major disaster could trigger a financial domino effect, leaving schools closed, hospitals empty, and people moving away. A lot of them moved to Houston. More recently, Hurricane Laura, Ida, and Zeta all hit within a few years of each other, costing billions more. Disaster recovery is expensive, and Louisiana's rainy day fund isn't exactly overflowing. In 2023, the state had $94 million in reserves, less than 2% of its annual budget. Education and infrastructure are also near the bottom of the barrel. The state ranks 48th in education quality, according to U.S. News, and much of its infrastructure is literally sinking. The Louisiana Department of Transportation has said it needs about $14 billion to fix and maintain its roads and bridges. Meanwhile, nearly 40% of the rural hospitals are at risk of closing due to financial distress. And again, cuts to Medicaid will be the last nail in the coffin for a lot of them. The scary part, a lot of Louisiana's problems are interconnected. A hurricane knocks out oil refineries, the economy tanks, tax revenue dries up, and suddenly the state can't fund schools, repair roads, and keep hospitals open. People leave, the tax base shrinks, and the cycle gets worse. Number 8. Michigan. Michigan, the birthplace of the auto industry, has had some flashy comebacks, but the state is still on life support. In 2024, 38% of residents were in financial distress, the highest in the nation. Detroit has shiny new developments, but abandoned neighborhoods, collapsing houses, and overgrown lots still tell a story of decline. Auto industry shocks, plant closures, and infrastructure problems, like Flint's water crisis, leave the state vulnerable. Michigan has lost nearly 600,000 residents since its 1970s peak, shrinking the tax base. When the next recession hits, Michigan will have neither the money nor the workforce resilience to handle it. Detroit alone has more than 20 square miles of vacant land, an area larger than Manhattan in New York. While some neighborhoods have rebounded, others look like they've been frozen since 1980 with collapsing houses and overgrown lots. The truth is, Michigan is exhausted. The boom and bust cycles have drained the optimism out of entire communities. Grandparents remember good union jobs with pensions and benefits. Their grandkids are working gig economy shifts just to keep the lights on. When the next national downturn hits, Michigan won't have a reserve financially or emotionally to weather a long winter. Number 7, Texas. Texas may look unstoppable with its booming cities and massive GDP, $2.6 trillion in 2023. But there are cracks under the surface. Over 35% of Texans were in financial distress in 2024. Rural areas are hollowing out, and housing costs have skyrocketed. Energy is both a strength and a risk. Texas depends heavily on oil and gas, industries vulnerable to market swings. The 2021 freeze exposed fragile infrastructure, and millions were left without electricity or heat. Healthcare gaps, high uninsured rates, and rural hospital closures add to the risk. Beneath the glossy surface, Texas could struggle when the next economic downturn hits. Even in smaller cities, rent hikes have outpaced wage growth, and it's not uncommon to meet Texans working 2 jobs and still can't afford health insurance or a down payment for a house. Energy is both Texas's biggest strength and its biggest risk. The state produces 43% of America's oil and 26% of its natural gas, which is, honestly, solid numbers. But as the world shifts towards renewable energy, that dependency could become a liability. Oil markets crash like the 2014 collapse or the 2020 pandemic drop, and this has led to massive layoffs. And let's not forget the Texas freeze of 2021 when the power grid failed, leaving millions without electricity or heat for days, causing at least 246 deaths. Number 6, Illinois. Illinois might look prestigious, Chicago, top universities, major transport hubs, but the state is financially unstable. Its pension system is the worst funded in the nation, with $140 to $150 billion in unfunded liabilities and less than half of what's owed saved. The rainy day fund is tiny, covering only 15 days of operation if revenue stopped. Population loss is chronic, draining tax dollars and worsening the crisis. Roads, bridges, and public services are strained, and Chicago itself faces massive debt. Companies are leaving, crime persists, and high property taxes push residents away. Illinois is a state that could collapse quickly if economic conditions worsen. Number 5, Hawaii. Hawaii's paradise image hides a fragile reality. The cost of living is nearly 88% above the national average, with median home prices over $835,000 and rent easily exceeding $2,000. Tourism drives roughly 21% of the economy, meaning any downturn in travel hits hard. Natural disasters worsen the situation. The 2023 Maui wildfires killed 101 people, destroyed thousands of homes, and caused $5.5 billion in damage. Native Hawaiians are leaving for affordable housing and jobs, with over 27,000 residents gone between 2015 and 2022. Hawaii's economy is highly sensitive, and any global or local disruption can be devastating. In 2023, Maui wildfires killed 101 people, destroying more than 2,200 structures, and caused $5.5 billion in damages. The economic impact went far beyond Maui. Tourism dropped statewide, especially among visitors who canceled trips entirely after seeing the images of the devastation. That dip in visitors spending rippled through restaurants, hotels, and small businesses that were already on edge. There's also the exodus problem. More native Hawaiians are leaving the island than at any other point in its history, heading to the mainland for affordable housing and better job opportunities. Between 2015 and 2022, Hawaii lost more than 27,000 residents. That was their net migrations. Sure, they still had more people coming in, but a lot more people left, to the tune of 27,000. Number 4 is Kentucky. So, Kentucky has bourbon, horses, and some really scenic landscapes, but poverty is high. Nearly 1 in 5 people live below the poverty line, and in some rural areas, it's actually over 30%. The median household income sits at $58,000. Now, coal mining used to define the state, but automation and the shift toward renewable energy have wiped out a lot of those jobs. Manufacturing is struggling, rural hospitals are at risk of closing, and the opioid crisis has just made the economic decline even worse. Kentucky relies pretty heavily on federal aid. About 40% of its budget comes from it. If there are any cuts to federal funding, the consequences could be immediate and honestly, pretty severe. Educational gaps also make it tough for new industries to take root, which keeps Kentucky stuck in this cycle of low wages and high poverty. Number 3, Nevada. So, Nevada's economy really revolves around tourism and hospitality, especially in places like Las Vegas and Reno. More than 1/4 of jobs are tied to this sector. In good times, the state just thrives, but any drop in spending leads to disaster. The Great Recession and the 2020 pandemic both show just how quickly Nevada can crash. Tax revenue relies really heavily on consumer spending, which makes the state extremely volatile. Just one bad year can turn Nevada's bustling cities into economic ghost towns almost overnight. Unemployment hit 13.7% back in 2010. And Las Vegas, well, it went from packed nightclubs to boarded-up strip malls in just a few months. Even more recently, the pandemic shutdown of 2020 sent Nevada's unemployment rate skyrocketing to 30%. That's the highest of any state in modern U.S. history. Casinos went dark, shows were canceled, and the tourism pipeline dried up almost instantly. It took years to recover, and honestly, in some rural areas, jobs never came back at all. The state's tax structure doesn't help either. Nevada relies heavily on sales tax and gaming tax revenue, and both are extremely volatile. In 2023, 72% of Nevada's general fund revenue came from taxes tied to consumer spending. Number 2, Alabama. Alabama has deep cultural roots, but, the economy is pretty fragile. Poverty sits at around 16%, with child poverty at 22% in rural counties. Median income is $58,000. And a lot of families are just living paycheck to paycheck. Healthcare is a major vulnerability here. Alabama has the 3rd highest uninsured rate in the nation, and rural hospital closures leave a lot of communities without emergency care. Roads and bridges are in poor condition, broadband is limited, and rural economies really depend on low-wage industries that, honestly, are the first to vanish in a recession. With nearly 42% of the state budget coming from federal aid, any reduction in federal spending could hit Alabama instantly. Number 1, West Virginia. West Virginia is just breathtakingly beautiful, but its economy is fragile and frankly declining. Workforce participation is just 44.9%, and fewer than 1 in 4 residents have a bachelor's degree. High school graduation rates lag behind the national average. The decline is deeply tied to coal. For over a century, coal was king. But as demand fell, jobs vanished, leaving towns struggling to survive. Education, healthcare, and infrastructure all suffer. West Virginia's system is fragile. One national recession or disaster could push entire communities into collapse. And that's not just a bad month statistic. That's a chronic condition that's been going on for years. Fewer than 1 in 4 residents have a bachelor's degree or higher, and high school graduation rates, while improving, are still below the national average. In an economy that rewards education and specialized skills, West Virginia is starting from the back of the pack. The decline is rooted in the coal industry. For over a century, coal was king here. Thank you for being with us and watching the video. Be sure to like, comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel and press the notification bell icon to get new video updates. Your support is invaluable to us. Thank you.